Okay, testing audio, testing audio. Audio looks good, feels good, sounds good. All right, awesome. Cool. All right, very good, very good. Things are off to an interesting start this morning. It looks like we have a new meme stock on our hands. And let me blow this up a little bit. There we go. Excellent. Excellent. So interesting start for today. It looks like we got a new meme stock on our hands with Hertz. I believe we saw a lot of folks from Reddit, or at least I saw a lot of activity on Wall Street Bets last night, indicating that Hertz may be a new meme stock. I see a lot of call options or a lot of activity on the options chain. Um, Definitely some interesting retail sentiment with respect to what's going on with Hertz, up 32% pre-market. So some very interesting news on that front. With respect to what my long positions are, I looked at the Q1 27 earnings report for Take-Two Interactive. I was very pleased with what I saw. We saw revenue beat. We saw earnings fall right near the upside of expectations. So no net income beat. But we got some very good news on the front with respect to TTWO and GTA 6 pre-orders. We're at $1.4 billion in pre-orders for Grand Theft Auto 6, so definitely some exciting news on that front. What do you think today about Amazon? How is Amazon doing pre-market? Because there's a lot of things to know, or a lot of things going on with Amazon as of late, especially after their Q2 earnings. I think Amazon's fine. Amazon's it's at a good valuation right now. I think it's at an attractive valuation. The one thing that I am a little bit wary of when it comes to Amazon is that there could be some better hyperscalers to invest in my opinion. I think Microsoft is slightly better than Amazon. Amazon's still a very solid pick though. Um, Out of all five hyperscalers, I put Amazon right in the middle of the pack. And with their capabilities, I'd put them in the middle of the pack as well. Can we look at Atlassian after yesterday? Yeah, we can. We can look at Atlassian. I don't think that they were profitable. And it looks like, wow, up 35% pre-market. Yeah. So, very impressive Q4 results. A lot of things. This is actually a big surprise. I did not expect to see a SaaS company be up 35% pre-market. This is pretty big. Um, we're probably in for a pretty interesting day in the stock market, to be honest. Just because of the fact, like, I was not expecting to see this. I wasn't expecting to see Hertz up 30% pre-market, and we could see some other news, especially with gold. I believe gold got upgraded as well, which is pretty exciting stuff. So a lot of things to like, or a lot of exciting things going on. We may have a pretty choppy day as well. Um, and as far as Western Digital, I know Western Digital had a pretty rough day yesterday. So taking a look at Western Digital, it looks like we're on the path to recovery a little bit. I like Western Digital's valuation. I think an interesting comparison would be to take a look at Western Digital and compare Western Digital to SanDisk, because I know SanDisk is getting the premium treatment to Western Digital. So it would be interesting to see how those things play out. I know that the company had a rough day yesterday because of weak Q1 27 guidance, and I know the market punished them pretty hard for that. So there's definitely some things to watch for on that front with Western Digital. I expect them to have a decent day because they had such a bad day yesterday. With respect to Robinhood, Robinhood's okay. Um, it's it's more interesting than SoFi in my opinion. Um, but there's other opportunities I'm looking at, to be honest. It's still a great company, still an interesting stock. It's pretty volatile, but there's a lot to like about Robinhood, and I can understand the bull case for Robinhood. So yeah. What about Rocket Lab? I'm not into Rocket Lab. No, I don't think it's a good pick. It's too much execution risk. Do you use 2x ETFs? I didn't get in until 500K. No, I don't use levered ETFs. I'd rather just pick individual companies. Rocket Lab price to sales is similar to SpaceX, and SpaceX has higher growth. I agree, Josh. I think SpaceX is probably the better play. Any interesting micro cap to look at? Not really. No. Um, I think most micro cap plays that would be interesting would be something in pharmaceutical or biotech, but I don't follow those sectors close enough to be able to have an informed thesis on what the play would be with micro cap plays. I'm not a huge fan of those. SanDisk looks like it's in for a good day. It's been a rough couple of days for SanDisk, I know, and it's been a rough July for SanDisk. Definitely not the best month ever for a company. Definitely not the worst we've seen in July, though. But it looks like it could be a good day for SanDisk just because of the fact that the fundamentals are still strong with the company. SoFi, I think SoFi is boring. So I'm not a huge fan of SoFi. I think that SoFi doesn't really have a lot to offer with respect to other competition. I mean, there's still some things to like about SoFi, but I'm not super big into them. What do I think about Take-Two? I was very pleased with the Q1 27 results. We got a revenue beat, which is great. Earnings looked good as well. And I also think that the guidance for 2027 is looking strong as well. The pre-order numbers for Grand Theft Auto 6 were at $1.4 billion in pre-order sales. Really, really strong numbers. I think that number is going to improve as we get into Q2 27. And I think Take-Two is a great play right now. It's a good time to get into Take-Two, in my opinion. Very high conviction, bullish stock, in my view. Party, you're not worried that Take-Two hype and around GTA is priced in? No, that's one thing I think the market has wrong. I don't think the market has correctly priced in the long-term value of the GTA IP. Nor do I think that the market has appreciated the fact that the company's growth and the stickiness of its ecosystem, particularly with the Zynga publishing label, is strong as well. And the company also just has a strong core revenue base of the 2K franchises. We're going to get new PGA, WWE, and NBA games later this year. So I'm confident in Take-Two's ability to deliver, and their net bookings. Their net bookings look strong. Operational metrics look strong. I'm happy about it. Netflix thoughts. Netflix, I'm sitting on the sidelines with. I'm not with respect to Netflix. Here's the thing. Their latest report and their latest management guidance, it wasn't great. I think that they're trying to kind of figure out what their next play is. And while the Warner Brothers and Paramount merger is kind of on pause, at least there was a federal judge that filed an injunction on that. We'll kind of see how the stock reacts to it. I'd imagine that's probably not going to have a huge impact on things, but Netflix needs to figure out their value. They need to reinvent their value proposition to customers. Netflix has a content and a price problem, and both need to improve. I'd imagine Netflix may get punished a little bit more. I want to be bullish on this stock. The company, as a business, it's got an incredible moat. It's got incredible IP. It does its own production in many cases. There's a lot of things to like about Netflix. They have a content and a price problem, though. Thoughts on Constellation Energy? It's a solid nuclear pick. The fact that they're basically a utility in Florida too isn't ideal. I'd love if I just wanted a pure nuclear exposure. It wouldn't be my first choice. There's still a lot to like about it. Good day to add CoreWeave short while it's still up. Listen, I'd still short at CoreWeave at this price. This is a company that is that it's the foundation of this business is built on quicksand. I am a huge bear when it comes to this company. I have multiple short positions, or I closed out one of my short positions when the stock was trading at about 78 per share last week. This is not a good business. Very high conviction play about this company. Not a fan of CoreWeave at all. So yes, I think it is a good day to add a short position into CoreWeave. Assuming Take-Two generates $4 billion in revenue from GTA 6, price of sales is at 10. That's pretty high. Yeah, but the thing is that the long-term value of the game isn't from the upfront sales, the digital or physical sales. It's going to be, I mean, the company Take-Two Interactive is still making hundreds of millions of dollars on a game that's 13 years old. And that's a significant portion of the company's revenue. The other advantage with video game publishers is that development costs can get capitalized to their balance sheet. That's extremely good when it comes to developing IP. That's good for the health of the company's balance sheet, in my view. What do you think about Celsius? Celsius had a pretty rough day. I don't know. Yesterday they did, at least. I'd imagine today there could be a little bit of recovery with respect to Celsius. I'm not sure how things are going to look for them moving forward. It sounds like they may have a distribution problem. They may not be turning inventories over as fast as they want to. That's a problem. I'm all in on CoreWeave at 95. Hopefully we'll see a surge like 3 days ago. Wilt, I don't get why you're bullish on CoreWeave. I don't get it. What's the expectation of CoreWeave to going up? What's the expectation for CoreWeave to go up to? I don't know. My expectation for CoreWeave is to go down. It's not a good business. It's just not a good company. Rolls-Royce is fine. To be honest, I think GE Aviation's in a better position. Samsung and SK Hynix. I'd pick SK Hynix over Samsung, to be honest. And with respect to Nebius, I know Nebius was a big one that a lot of people had kept their eye on, especially after a pretty bad day yesterday, and especially after Michael Burry announced his big short position in Nebius. I don't disagree with him. Nebius is a company that has it's got off-balance sheet liabilities, and its losses are expanding, and it probably needs to dilute shareholders even more to raise more cash. This is not like Nebius and NeoClouds in general. I'm not bullish on. Nebius is in a better spot than CoreWeave is, in my opinion. But honestly, this isn't like I'm not big on this either. Opinion on memory stocks right now. With memory stocks, I think that memory stocks are there's still value to be found, I think, in memory stocks. I think the market overly punished companies like Western Digital. Their guidance for 2027, I think, is going to be key in finding out where the stock moves forward. We'll see with respect to what's going to end up happening with companies like SanDisk and Western Digital. I know that pricing power is eroding for memory companies at the moment. And that's because no one really truly knows what the actual truth is and what demand is for memory. I think that there's a lot to like about some memory businesses. I'd prefer to get ones that are cheaper, but there's a lot to unpack. It's mainly guidance, I think, is what's going to move the stock price. Everyone looking at memory with the fair PE ratios, those earnings assume that memory stays high. That's right, Josh, and I think that assumption is starting to come into question because the pricing power of memory is eroding, in my view. What are some companies do you see value in investing in today? I like Take-Two Interactive, TTWL. I like Waste Management. It's a solid defensive play. I think with room to grow there, and I'm a fan of Reddit as well. I also like Elf Cosmetics. Did a deep dive on Elf Cosmetics. It's approaching my target price, though. We'll see if it hits $100 a share. I could very well see that happening. There's a lot to like about Elf Cosmetics as well. Do I see Nebius dropping? I think Nebius is going to have a good day, but we'll see. Can we take a look at Qualcomm? Yeah. Had a decent day, pretty good day yesterday. On track to have a decent day so far, at least pre-market. So I think Qualcomm's a solid pick. There's a lot to like about Qualcomm as well. The fundamentals are there. The fundamentals are absolutely there with Qualcomm. Do you think Rigetti will go up? I know Rigetti. I'd like to see Rigetti go up. I'd like to see quantum stocks get rewarded, but I think that Rigetti and quantum, it's early. Overall, it's early for the quantum game. The income statements on these companies look pretty ugly. They're just very, very, very expense heavy, and it's hard to say whether or not the movement of a company's stock price is going to improve if we see, better delivery of quantum computers or quantum cloud services or something like this. What say you? What soy you think about TTW earnings call today? Strauss said the pre-orders were exceptional. I was very happy with that. Pre-orders were absolute. The pre-orders looked fantastic for Take Two Interactive. I was very happy with the revenue beat. At revenue beat expectations. Guidance for expenses have come down. There's no change in guidance for FY27 on revenue. I was pleased with the results for TTW. I'm still bullish on them. 1.4 billion in pre-orders so far. Is the jobs report for July bullish because of the job loss? I'd imagine so. Yeah, Will. I think that there's with the jobs report that we saw this morning, I think that loss is probably because of the World Cup ending in the U.S. I think a lot of those were temporary positions. I haven't read the full report, but I'd imagine that's probably why. So honestly, I wasn't expecting to see a stellar jobs report for July because we're gonna see a lot of a lot of people leaving temporary positions. That would be my guess. Is the World Cup. He said like 30 times pre-orders were insane. He's never seen anything like this. That's right. It is insane. They're gonna knock it out of the park. Take Two Interactive is gonna knock it out of the park in November. I mean, they're on track to have a pretty insane 2027. I think their guidance is low, to be honest. Thoughts on Robinhood? There's a lot to like about Robinhood. Yeah, it's a decent company. Bind RGTI. Me personally, no. I think it's too early. I want to love quantum computing right now. It's a little too early. Thoughts on Rocket Lab? With Rocket Lab, I'm not. I mean, yeah, they're getting contracts down and that kind of stuff. There's a lot of execution risk with Rocket Lab. I really want to love a company like Rocket Lab and ASTS too, but the execution risk is really big. And they're kind of standing in the shadow of SpaceX as well, which is, yeah. Thoughts on SMCI? Great business. Great business. Expectation for ServiceNow. ServiceNow is sitting at, I think around 120. Yeah. Up pretty strong pre-market as well. I think ServiceNow is a solid hold right now. There's a lot to like about ServiceNow. I think the company has done a really fantastic job putting AI agents into its business. I think that with ServiceNow, it's probably, I would sell it if it was sitting at around 135 or higher. I mean, I called the bottom. I said get in at around 95, a little under 95 a share. But as far as a good point to take profits, I'd say about 135 a share. I think about Celsius. It's not great. The miss was a problem for Celsius, and I think they may be running into a distribution problem. Don't you think they're sandbagging the guidance for Take Two Interactive? They could be. They very well could be. As a way, I don't know. They could be. I could see why they would. But I think there's more advantages to actually being truthful about what the guidance is. Are you yourself educated in investing? How'd you get into this? I mean, I've worked as a financial analyst for several years. Got my MBA in finance, bachelor's in economics. I've been investing myself for about 15 years. Do you go live the same time every day? Today is a little bit earlier than normal just because of the fact that I have to leave in a couple hours. I got to head out of town for the weekends for somewhere. So I am streaming early today. Usually I'm live in the afternoons Eastern time in the U.S. Do you think IBM's a good buy right now? IBM's a tricky one. It could be. I need to do a deep dive on IBM. I really do. There's still a lot of very, very valuable assets on IBM's balance sheet. They're one of the leaders in quantum right now. Honestly, my gut tells me the market punished them too much last month when we saw this, when they just fell off a cliff. I think there's still a lot to like about the company. I think that it was a market overreaction, but it definitely requires a lot of due diligence into determining whether or not IBM's a good business worth buying still. I still think that there's a lot of reasons to like IBM. I need to do my due diligence and read the filings. Thoughts on BLLN? Billion to One Inc. Who are these guys? I've never heard of these guys. Precision Diagnostics quantifies biology to create molecular diagnostics, molecular accounting. I've never heard of these guys. Have never heard of. I don't really have an opinion. Don't have thoughts. At least an informed one. To be honest, I would probably avoid it since I don't understand what they do, but I'd definitely be willing to put in the work to do the homework on them. Billion to One is such a bad name. I agree. This is a terrible name. Jeez, God. Hey, Anderson, what's going on? Thoughts on Tesla? I'm not a fan of Tesla. I'm not a fan of. I don't. So, I don't buy automotive stocks. So it's not just Tesla. I don't buy Rivian. Don't buy Ford, GM, any of them. Invested in dill pickle, had huge gains. Nice. What's the best for swing right now? I don't swing trade. Why is that? Why don't I buy automotives? There's a couple of reasons for it. One, automotives are incredibly cyclical. They're cyclical, and they're cyclical in a bad way, meaning that it's, in my view, hard to predict when their cycles begin and end. The other thing with automotives is that they have an incredibly long and incredibly complex income statement. There are a lot of massive expenses that automotive companies have to pay for. Their margins can either be good or very strong, and they can spend a lot of money on products that can completely flop. The other thing, too, is that automotives are also sensitive to macro trends because their consumers rely on what a good interest rate could be to lease and eventually own a car. And automotive companies have no control over that. I don't like owning shares in a company that don't have a solid control over what the price of their product can be or how that can drive demand for their customers. Not a big fan of it. For example, Ford, I think Ford is this is what Ford has looked like since it's been publicly trading for the last 40 years. This is not this is boring, extremely boring. UAW compresses the margins. That's also true. Yeah. Nebius, I'm not a fan. NeoClouds in general, I'm not a fan of. Thoughts on Celsius after it tanked? Ben, I could probably have to I got to listen to I saw the highlights. I listened to a short clip of the earnings call. They not ideal. It sounds like it could be a distribution problem though. That's a little bit concerning. Thoughts on him? They should be making more money than they are. AOI, it's a cool company. They do a lot of cool stuff. I need to learn more about it though, to be honest. Looks like they're off to a really strong day though at market open. I could see why people like this. Their value is contingent upon what AI infrastructure spending is going to be, though. That's the thing. Thoughts on Google? Very strong. Love Google. Strong company. And on Microsoft, I put Microsoft as an S tier hyperscaler. Big fan of Microsoft. I'm also a fan of Google as well. What flu do you think? What flu you think about the partnership with Netflix, Take Two? Why didn't they go deep into the call? To be honest, I don't know. What's my background? What do you mean, Jeff? Like, what's directly behind me, or like what's my background in finance and investing? What's your thoughts on Wendy's? I was told it was a great buy for the dividend, but it hasn't seen growth. Mark, I think Wendy's there was a very brief period of a couple of days where it looked like it could be the next meme stock. I mean, their Q2 26 earnings calls right now. I listen. It was exciting for a second there. I'd avoid it. It's probably kind of boring. I mean, it's consumer staple defensive play. Franchise restaurant chains like Wendy's, like McDonald's, usually, their stock prices. I mean, this is what it's looked like for Wendy's over the last year. I don't really see a huge reason as to why I should get into Wendy's. If I want a good yield, I can get into Wendy's. I mean, they have nearly a 7.6% yield. That's quite good. And a low beta and a low PE. That means your stock price isn't going to move much. Thoughts on Rocket Lab? Honestly, Rocket Lab has too much. It's too much execution risk in my view. My background in finance, Jeff. Well, I got an MBA in finance. I've worked in capital markets and investor relations, as well as in FP&A as a financial analyst. Been investing for 15 years. Got my bachelor's in economics. That's just kind of the 30,000-foot view. TerraWolf. TerraWolf again. I like. Don't love it, to be honest. I mean, they're losing money like all other neoclouds right now. And they're not like, to be honest, I don't think their moat is as good as something like Iran, because they're not focusing on a niche like providing renewable energy for their data centers or their compute capacity. So, yeah, I'm just not super excited about a company like TerraWolf. How do you start analyzing a business? Um, you go to its filings and you go to its website and you go look at what they do, what they sell, who their customers are, what their expenses are, how they use their cash, what their balance sheet looks like, all that stuff. Do you have an objective price for Take Two Interactive? In my case, I'm very long term. Yeah, my target price for Take Two Interactive is $285 a share right now, and I've done a deep dive on the company. Go to my YouTube channel if you want to learn more. Iran, no, Iran's like not that exciting to me. Like I said, you guys can throw all kinds of NeoCloud tickers at me, but they're not like, this is too expensive. I'm not paying $39 a share for a company that's not like they. Yes, they were a Bitcoin miner, and then they became a GPU landlord to rent out for AI models. I mean, that was the right move. Not super stoked about the thesis though. It's YouTube channel name, Helldiver. Just go look up my name on YouTube. Thoughts on Reddit earnings? Yeah, Yoren, I was very pleased with Reddit. Um, Growth with Reddit is extremely strong. Big fan of Reddit, even at this price. And honestly, Reddit deserves way better treatment than this. Way better treatment than this. This is a company, I think Reddit's worth about $230 a share. They're looking very strong. Yeah, thoughts on Atlassian? Um, Insane day. Like absolutely insane. They had a strong earnings report. I'm sure their shareholders are extremely happy right now. Um, I think fundamentally speaking, there are better SaaS companies out there. Um, I'd have to see a really strong bull thesis for Atlassian at this price, though. Oracle, Oracle, I'm sitting on the sidelines on. I really don't like the credit risk with Oracle. What stocks do I hold? I'm a shareholder in Applied Materials, AMAT, AMAT. I hold shares in Lockheed Martin. I hold shares in Reddit, Take-Two Interactive, Waste Management, Nike, and I also have some shares in Apple and a couple other small ones. Yeah, with Nike, how's Nike doing? I've gotten a lot of crap from people about my bull thesis on Nike, and I get it. I get why people don't like Nike. Um, I think that people are underestimating the IP and the brand value of Nike, though. Did they drift away from their bread and butter? Yeah, absolutely. Should they have gone to the direct to consumer model? No. No, that was a stupid and foolish idea. Have they had a good year? No. They've had a terrible year. With that being said, though, I think that Nike, with the new management team, is making the right moves by going back to repairing wholesale relationships that they have. I think that they are doing the right things with respect to, getting back to developing good shoes and moving that inventory in China. And there's still revenue growth in each of their major regions. Nobody seems to care about that, though. I think my target price for Nike is $57 a share. I could see them having a decent 2027. Netflix thoughts? I'm sitting on the sideline with Netflix. What's another company you like? I think SMCI is an interesting play at the moment. There's still value to be found, but it's getting harder. I think SMCI is an interesting one as well. Netflix thoughts, Vincent. With Netflix, here's the thing: the management basically moving the goalposts on what their key operational metric was. I think it was a huge red flag. Big problems. Netflix has a price and content problem, and they're not doing it. They need to figure out how to fix that. Because a lot of their subscribers are not happy for the value that they're getting for what they're paying. Netflix needs to fix that. I'm confident that they will eventually. Netflix isn't going anywhere. So I think if you're going to get into Netflix now, you need to be pretty convinced that they will and that they'll do that in a reasonable amount of time. So I'm sitting on the sidelines with Netflix right now. It's on my short watch list. I'm paying attention to what's going on with Netflix. And, we'll see. We'll see how things play out. Meta, would I get into Meta? Not if I can get into Microsoft or Google. Knee thoughts? Nextera. Yeah, it's okay. It's all right. I think so the whole idea of trying to buy Dominion Energy was not like it was interesting, but I didn't expect that to work out. It's okay. It's an okay stock. Is Microsoft too high to buy into right now? No, I don't think so. I like Microsoft a lot at this price. I think Microsoft is undervalued actually. And Microsoft's Q2 results were extremely good. I mean, they knocked it out of the park in my view. Out of all the hyperscalers, I'd put Microsoft at S tier. My expectation for Microsoft 500 is super high. Not when you're at 30 times less than 30x earnings. And not with the type of guidance that you got, and you still get a 73 bip yield out of them with still a reasonable beta. This is not like with the strong Azure results, with the results on 30 million paid Copilot subscribers. And here's the thing, Microsoft brought something to the table and said, here's what we have to show for all the money we've been spending. And I was impressed with it. No, I think this is a great price for Microsoft. I could see Microsoft going much higher than this. I could see them going north of 600 a share. What do you think about IREN stock? It's a waste of time. IREN, it's overvalued. At $40 a share, no. This is not, like, come on. Palantir, people have asked me about Palantir. I've done my deep dive on Palantir. Palantir as a business. So here's the thing. Here are my thoughts on Palantir. Wow, up another 5.5% today. As a business, Palantir is extremely impressive. Their growth and their earnings growth and the diversification of their revenue streams, very impressive. I have a hard time justifying buying a company though that's at 140x those earnings and growth. Palantir is priced at a point where its growth that we have seen is going to continue, not in perpetuity, but for the foreseeable future. That's very optimistic. For me, in my view, Palantir's too expensive. Forward P is lower. Forward P is lower on a lot of companies, though. I don't love the idea of using forward PE as a way to justifying a company's stock price. Think about SanDisk. I think SanDisk is a decent company. There's a lot to like about memory right now. I think they were punished pretty hard the last couple of days. The guidance for Q1 27 is not ideal, and pricing power for memory is eroding a little bit, but I think that there's still a lot to like. There's still value to be found, I think. Novo Nordisk, big fan of Novo Nordisk. But growth percentage is far higher than other companies. That's true. Yes, Palantir's growth has been insane, but that's not a sustainable growth rate. Like we're not going to see a 93% year-over-year revenue increase for the next 3 or 4 years with Palantir. And in any DCF model, if you put that into your DCF model with Palantir to determine what its future earnings are going to look like, it's not going to spit out a $164 share price. And that's because Palantir, the cost of capital for Palantir is extremely high. Its current cost of capital is like 14%. That's good and bad. It's good because they're debt free, but it's bad because they have a high beta and it's a relatively volatile stock. So I want to, like, if Palantir was at like $100 a share, I'd consider getting in. Long term, though, I'd like to see how the company does. I think the growth assumptions that analysts have for Palantir are too optimistic. Morning. Do I sell or hold Micron? I'd hang on to it. Thoughts on trimming big wins in Microsoft and Amazon and holding cash and money markets to wait for a dip? If you're going to wait for a dip in stocks, Ben, I would look at different opportunities. I think that gold is very interesting right now, to be honest. We saw very strong support for gold at about 3,900 a share. And I think with the way interest rates are looking and with the way things are looking from a macro lens, gold, I think, is a very interesting opportunity. And by the same token, silver. What about SoFi? SoFi's, it's okay. CRM thoughts? Jorn, CRM's a bit of a dinosaur. I can see why people like Salesforce, but the thing is that I think you'll probably see better moves in ServiceNow. Is TeraWulf a buy right now? I don't think so, Will. No. How is Fed hawkish? Stronger dollar would mean weaker precious metals. Yeah, the problem is that we're not seeing that. And especially with what the what's going on with the Fed and the Treasury and the $60 billion repo facility that was offered to the Japanese to try and sustain the value of the yen carry trade. I don't think that's going to work. And I think the Japanese are going to be forced to sell U.S. Treasuries. That's a problem. It's a big problem. It's the best way to invest in gold. You can go look at futures. You can buy their futures. I have a question. Why isn't there much volume after TTW earnings call? Expected a huge change. Probably because the market believes they have everything priced in correctly. This is still a good day for Take Two. I wouldn't expect this company to have a huge swing like what we're seeing with Atlassian at the moment, but there's still a lot to like here. Okay, KDP. Keurig Dr. Pepper. Interesting. Is this the one you're talking about, Bryson? That's so funny. I didn't realize they like merged. I don't know. Am I bullish on these guys? I'd have to take a look. Let's hang on. I'm going to take a quick look at their recent financials to see how they've performed recently as a company. Let's go to the quarterly basis. Yeah, so I'd have to go to the filings. This is incomplete information here from Barron's. Year over year, things look decent. 12.5% margin, not bad. To trading at about 30x earnings. There could be a good bull case here. I mean, it's for a company like this, it's pure battle of market share between Coke, Pepsi, and others. Thoughts on U.S. jobs report? Jorn, I'm not super surprised. 23,000 loss, a little steeper than I thought, but I think we were going to see job losses because of the World Cup. The World Cup ended. All those temp positions got eliminated. What do I think about SECZ, Securitized Corporation? Nothing, because I've never heard of them. Tokenizing and managing digital asset securities. Capital raising, secondary trading. Yeah, I don't have a thoughts on this company. I've never heard of them. Nearly microcap. Yeah, I have no idea who these guys are. Celsius after earnings. I mean, like I said, Celsius, it sounds like there might be a bit of a distribution problem with Celsius, but I think that there's still a good case to be there. It kind of reminds me of what my reaction was with Netflix, but not quite to the same degree. We think about Hertz. Yeah, Hertz. Do we have a new meme stock on our hands? Like, what's going on? I don't know if you guys follow Wall Street Bets. I was looking at some activity last night. So a lot of people loaded up on some calls for Hertz. This is interesting. I didn't realize that for some reason, I thought these guys were taken private a long time ago. But they're still kind of clipping away. Pretty interesting to see this. So we'll see. As far as me buying shares in Hertz, I'm not going to is this the next GameStop or AMC? Probably not. Thoughts on Adobe? I still need to do my homework on Adobe. I've said before here on stream, I've said Adobe feels like a value trap. I don't know if that's still the case. I definitely still have to do my homework on Adobe. Thoughts on Vertiv? I have looked at this business before. Off to a recent or a pretty good day. There's a strong case to be made here. I think one could easily say though it's slightly expensive. Let's go. I need a quick refresher on what recent financials have looked like in this company. Not a ton of short interest, which is good. Oh, that's right. I remember this. The reporting is all screwed up here on Barron's. Let's see what Yahoo says, even though I think this is uglier. Yeah. Pretty strong revenue growth over the last couple of years. How about a quarterly basis? That's not bad either. No, I mean, there's things to like here. How does their balance sheet look? Health's been improving overall, but I'd imagine that they're probably, well, they may be raising debt. I don't think they have. Yeah, it looks like strong free cash flow. There's probably a good case to be made here. I'd imagine there's probably more room for upside, but as far as how much more upside there is, I mean, we could see it get pushed north of $300 a share. I don't know how long it'll stay there though. It's slightly expensive too. I mean, I can throw it on a watch list. I exited my if CapEx pays or Meta lowers CapEx, they fly. I exited my Meta position yesterday. Did I make the right call? To be honest, yes, I do think you made the right call. Meta's extremely cheap at the moment. I mean, it's trading at a cheap price. Here's the thing though with Meta. The market is going to go to Meta and is basically going to say, this is your put up or shut up moment. What do you have to show for all this money that you're spending? And if Mark Zuckerberg shits the bed on, the earnings call and doesn't really have that strong of a story about how this money that they're spending is going to transform their business and make it better, that's not good for them. What I'm afraid of is that Meta is going to this feels like the Metaverse 2.0 in a way. And the Metaverse was a total flop. That was a disaster. So we'll see. I'm a little more wary on Meta. I'd call it, if you have a lot of profits in Meta, I'd take them. If you don't, I'd hang on to it. But I wouldn't buy more because there are better hyperscalers. There's still a lot to like about Meta, but I think the opportunity cost of buying it is too high to ignore by investing into others. Thoughts on MP Materials? Believe these guys are rare earths, no? Just want to make sure. Yeah. Oh no, magnetics. Okay. I need to learn more about these guys. Mining companies as a whole, I tend to avoid if I can just access the commodity that they refine or mine straight in a futures market. I'd rather do that. It looks like these guys don't do that, so it could be interesting. I need to do my research on them, so I don't have a super strong opinion on one way or another because I don't know enough about the company. Check out ServiceNow. It's jumping 20% like 2 weeks or less. Yeah, ServiceNow has been having a great couple of weeks. Vistra. Oh, they're having Q2 earnings today. Okay. Not a great start to today, though. And it looks like yeah. Okay. Yep. Um a solid defensive play, I'd say. I mean, with a company like Vistra, you're probably going to see a little bit more volatility just because of everything that they do compared to others, to their competition, that is. It's not on a watch list. I don't really pay a ton of attention with Vistra. They missed earnings. Okay, well there you go. I think yeah. So I mean, I don't have a strong opinion on this company one way or another. They missed by how much though? Andrew, are you checking Asian stocks? Yeah, we can. We can look at anything traded in Korea or on the Nikkei or Hang Seng. I'm not. I need to know a lot more about some of them, but you know, what's going on with Nebius? Well, Nebius is recovering today. After a pretty rough day. Are they recovering? No, they're not. Oh, I thought they were going to. Ugh, ouch. Yeah, see that's what happens when Michael Burry puts his eyes on a stock. Um, no, and I don't disagree with Michael Burry. I mean, not a huge fan of Nebius. You know why ServiceNow's jumping? ServiceNow, I know that they had a strong quarterly results. And I think that they're doing a better job in the SaaS game compared to like Salesforce. Um, there's a lot to like about ServiceNow. I think if ServiceNow breach goes above, so I called the bottom at ServiceNow at like 92, 93 a share. I said that could be an interesting entry point. Turns out I was right. But I think that if ServiceNow goes above, it's a hold for me if I have stock in ServiceNow. I don't, but I'd hang on to it, and if it goes north of 135, or if we see resistance at that level, that might be a good point to take profits. It'd be great if you could check Konami. Can I have a ticker for them? Bought now and Adobe at 100 and 200. Nice. There you go, Dylan. Well done. G Vernova could be a good opportunity below $1,000 to reduce cost basis. GE Vernova there's a lot to like about GE Vernova. What's surprising to me is that when GE spun off everything a couple of years ago, I was expecting GE Vernova to do the worst out of the three between healthcare, aviation, and power. Turns out this one I think has done the best. I as far as like providing turbines for whoever needs them for power generation for data centers, these are the guys to go to. And I know that they've been having long backlogs because there's been a lot of people basically competing for orders for GE Vernova. That's a great problem to have. Fundamentally speaking, I think it's strong too. The question is can they keep up their margins and can they sustain the quality of their earnings? I got $7,000. What should I put in to flip it today? I would say, Alexa, you should think carefully about trying to flip $7,000 into more money. Why is the stock going down? I'd imagine there are probably some institutions taking profits. All right, so for Konami, someone was asking about Konami, 9766. Okay, cool. 21,000 yen per share. Gaming and multimedia. Yep. Um so I am invested in a company that develops video games. I own shares in Take-Two Interactive instead of Konami. I'd have to take a look at their books. How have they done this year? Wow, all over the place. Well, actually, no, just because we're talking in terms of Japanese yen. Um, let's go look here in Barron's and see what Konami's fundamentals have looked like. So we're at 21,000 yen per share. Wow. That's really strong growth, actually. How about a quarterly basis? Not bad either. And we had very strong free cash flow in Q1 26, and it looks like there's still free cash flow in Q2 26. This is interesting, actually. Hausman, this is an interesting suggestion. I'll definitely have to take a look at these guys. As the reasons as to why they were trading the way they were, I'd need to learn more about that. I'll definitely go look at their books and go look at their regulatory filings. I would buy AppLovin at that drop yesterday. I know AppLovin just had a terrible day. I know that there was a miss in analyst expectations with AppLovin. That's why it just had a super rough day yesterday. That's basically an IBM level of drop. It's recovered quite a bit since. We'll see with AppLovin. I mean, I need to do more homework on basically digital marketing companies like these guys. They probably have a pretty good revenue streams. They probably have decent quality of earnings. It's the moat that scares me. Check out Games Workshop if you want to own a growing gaming company. Yeah, I mean, maybe, but there can only be so many Warhammer nerds around the world, right? Is ServiceNow still worth it? Maybe. I think so. It's had a very, very good couple of days, but the problem is with ServiceNow, I don't know. We may be hitting resistance at these levels. I think it's a little late to get in. I think the right time to get in was about a week and a half ago. About 2 weeks ago with ServiceNow. Rocket Lab is a big execution risk. There's a lot of execution risk with Rocket Lab. Not a huge fan of it, to be honest. Which stock was the GTA stock? Take-Two Interactive, TTWO. Can we look at Manchester United stock? There's tradable public securities for Manchester United. Do we have a ticker? Bryson says check out Palantir. Yeah, Palantir is an interesting one. With Palantir, I'm very impressed by their results. I'm very impressed by the performance of the business. The growth assumptions for Palantir, I think, are a little too rosy, or way too rosy, in my view. So there's a lot to like about Palantir. There's a lot to like about what they've done, but I don't know. Palantir at $129. So Phil, let me ask you this. Would you are you hanging on to Palantir, or are you going to sell it? Are you going to take profits at this level? Because you're at a nice, like, this is a nice little margin you're sitting at right now. If you're in at 129, it's trading at about 170. That's not bad. So are you going to hang on to it, or are you going to sell? While I'm awaiting Phil's response, let's go look at Manchester United. That's so funny. I had no idea this was the case. I don't know enough about how an English football club makes money. I've never heard of a sports franchise like that being publicly traded. That's so interesting. Yeah, so yeah, UEFA and Premier League is what they're in. And I'm guessing they make most of their money from streaming rights, licensing, and apparel and ticket sales, like any other sports team. I'd have to take a look at their books. It's cool. Let's go look. Let's go look at their financial performance. Apparently, Manchester United is a $3.7 billion franchise, or at least the company that owns the team, in theory, is worth about $3.8 billion. Or is that pound? No. Okay, so yeah, they're trading. Yeah. That's a lot of debt. And they're losing money. They made 255 million in Q1 26. Honestly, this isn't too much different from like a Formula One team's finances. I looked at the books for Aston Martin recently. This looks kind of similar. No, I'll pass on Manchester United. Looks cool though, but I'm gonna pass. One of the biggest clubs in the world, yeah, and they're up to their eyeballs in debt. Can we look at TMO? Yeah, Jack, sure, sure. Yeah, Thermo Fisher. Um, I on my TikTok channel back in I think May, I looked at Thermo Fisher Scientific. I don't remember what my target price was for Thermo Fisher. What was it? Yeah. So I think it was like around here. I took like back in like April, May. I think I did an analysis. One of you guys can go look at my channel and just go scroll through my content. And I did one for Thermo Fisher Scientific. Solid company. There's a lot to like about it. They have a pretty complex income statement though. So it's not a simple business. And there's a lot that they're doing. And there's a lot to like about what they do. I don't know if it's a buy at this point though. I believe they're trading at a higher price relative to their peer group. So I'd call it a hold just based on what I know right now and what I've said. What I've looked at. I would call it a hold. If Man U isn't your fancy, maybe you like the Atlanta Braves. You can buy stock in the Atlanta Braves. That's hilarious. Learn something new every day. How about Groupon? Yeah, Groupon's an interesting one. Nice. They're having a good day. There's a guy I follow here on TikTok. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Mispriced Assets, Nick Nemeth. He's pretty active about Groupon, very bullish on them. This is an interesting company. I haven't seen a strong bear case for Groupon. I still need to do my own homework on them though. Probably some things to like about Groupon, some things to dislike about Groupon. I'd have to go look at their books though. I'd have to go look at their books and find out what their core business is. I know they're turning things around though. Thoughts on Neocorp today? A meeting with Trump in the White House. Didn't know that was going on, York, but I'll take a look. Is Take Two still worth it? Yes, I think so. This is a great entry point for Take Two, in my view. GLXY, Galaxy Digital, perfect time to get in. Is this a micro cap? Nope, small cap, but what do these guys do? Data center infrastructure business in North America and internationally. Data centers, Treasury Corp. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so they do over-the-counter spot and derivatives trading, lending, and structured products. Okay. M&A advisory and equity and debt capital markets. Sure. And they got blockchain-centric technology solutions, including staking. Okay. Cool. Do they make money though? I'd imagine that if you're doing capital markets for over the count, yeah, they're not at a 3.6 beta. I'll pass. I'll pass on Galaxy Digital. Perfect time to buy in. I mean, why, Dylan? Why is it a good time to buy in a Galaxy at this price? Like, why shouldn't I wait it to? Why shouldn't I wait for this company to go back to say $18 a share? That's kind of my question. Appreciate the heart me. Thank you, Maris. Have I ever looked at Eco? I've been in since $22. Seems like a strong growth play. We are waiting on a tenant announcement any week now. They already supplied power to CoreWeave. Oh, nice. Okay. Dylan, I'm not sure if you're aware, but CoreWeave is I'm a massive bear in CoreWeave right now. Okeanis Eco Tankers Corp. What do I think about these guys? I have not looked at Eco before. How many carriers do they have? 16 vessels. Okay. Oh, they've got VLCC tankers. Nice. So they've got 8 Suezmax and 8 VLCC, and they've got crude oil. Yeah, I mean, so as far as I've looked, people have told me to take a look at bulk carriers before, that have much larger fleets. That doesn't mean that this isn't a bad company. What I do know is that in the shipping business, you're usually trading at a low PE because your growth is very slow and predictable. I mean, you can only move so much oil with 16 ships, right? And you can only have so much improving guidance on how much oil you can move or what the price is. A lot of the costs I know these shipping companies pay, they don't really have much control of. So fuel prices, insurance is another big one that they don't really have much control over, but they need both of those things, so they're forced to pay it regardless. And they probably have a lot of big non-cash expenses, namely with DNA, on their vessels. So the only reason why I would get into a company like this is if I have some good information or if I have some high conviction that they're going to expand their fleet or that they're going to get acquired. Otherwise, it's probably an okay defensive play. It's got an amazing yield. A 15% forward dividend yield is extremely strong. That's one reason to really like these carriers, though. So, yeah, there's a lot to like. I mean, as far as getting your cash back, if you want a solid yield, that's a good one. But are we going to see insane swings in the stock price? I don't think so. This looks pretty good, though. They've had a good year. Am I too late on Take-Two Interactive? Hakai, no, I don't think so. Thoughts on IBM? Jorn, I need to do more homework on IBM. It could be very interesting. I like where they're positioned quantum-wise. What I don't like is how much they rely on consulting revenue. What do I think about the Michael Burry short on Nebius? I think it's interesting. I think a lot of the retail investors in Nebius are kind of learning that, this is what happens when a famous bear decides to short the stock that you're in. With these guys, here's the thing. Nebius their losses are expanding. And there's also some off-balance sheet liabilities they have. That's a problem. That's a big problem. I'm also not bullish on the business model of neoclouds, considering what hyperscalers are doing. So I don't disagree with him. So I'm not like I'm not super optimistic about the future of this company. How are we feeling about the job numbers today? A little worse than what I expected. Not super surprising that it's a net loss, though, just because of the World Cup. Makem Technology Solutions, MSTI. Are these the guys you're talking about? It's a semiconductor play? Okay. Okay, so they do 5 and 6G infrastructure. So they're not necessarily... Okay. Semiconductor solutions for the wireless and wireline applications on radio frequency, microwave, millimeter wave, and light wave spectrum. Okay. Cool. Could be interesting. What do their recent financials look like? SK Hynix or memory in general? I think SK Hynix. They talk the talk and walk the walk. They're the real deal. Whoops, no, wrong one. MTSI, my bad. Okay, so with these guys, yeah, those are razor thin margins, and they lost money in 2025 quarterly. The balance sheet looks good though. Quarter over quarter, things look the improvement looks good. Was this a buyback right here last quarter? Is there earnings? There's an analyst rating. Barclays analyst right there raised guidance or raised their estimate. It feels expensive, to be honest. I don't know if I'd pay $300 a share for him. There's probably a lot to like about this. I'd need to know who their customers are, what the strength of those customers are, and what the plan is as far as growth is concerned. It's a top play for mining stock, magnets, etc. I mean, you can look at MP Materials. As if I were to get into mining stocks, it'd probably be MP and USAR. But I'm not like gold miners and silver miners. I'm not interested in. They sell in the military. Okay. Many more. Uber. Yeah, Uber's an interesting one. So here's the thing with my thoughts on Uber. If I'm going to get into Uber, I also want to take a close look at Grab, because Grab is supposedly an acquisition target for Uber. I would probably want to get into Grab stock if that were the case. And I'd also want to know why there is or not why, or how they plan on making that happen. I know they beat expectations for Uber, and they did pretty well in the second quarter. But the thing is that what's like, there's only so much money and so much margin you can make off what they're doing. I'm very interested in if there's a horizontal move that Uber makes into competitors or something like this. So, I'll pass, but there could be a lot of things to like about this. Laser Photonics. Oh, geez. All right. Operates as a vertically integrated manufacturing company for photonics-based industrial laser cleaning technologies and applications for the pharmaceutical industry. This is like a micro cap. I think their market cap's less than $100 million. Yeah. They're losing money out the ass. And a high beta. It looks like there's news that they could nail down a defense contract. I don't know, man. Yeah, they're losing $1.83 per share. Financials don't look great. And it looks like they may have carried over. No, those are liabilities exceeding assets. So they just raised a whole bunch of debt. This is a binary play. I'm not like, no, I'm gonna pass on these guys. I wouldn't even short this. Like I don't even know how I could like buying to cover on these. Like, yeah, market maker can make that happen, but it's extremely volatile. I'm gonna pass. Thoughts on SpaceX? Yeah, how is SpaceX doing? Wow, up 9% today. I think I think the reason why we're up 9% on SpaceX is because of the fact that we saw a lot of institutions. So basically there were 911 million shares unlocked earlier this week that became available for trading. And what ended up happening is I think a lot of index funds were forced to buy shares in SpaceX. I think that's what's happening right now. because they have to keep a certain, they have certain criteria that they have to meet. So they're automatically purchasing shares in companies that the fund is indexed to, or what the fund's objectives are. So SpaceX as a whole, very long term, I'm bullish on SpaceX. I want SpaceX to be a massive success. I think what they're doing is really cool. Medium to short term, massively overvalued. Massively overvalued. What do I think its future is? Well, here's the thing. They're the only ones right now who have very heavy launch capability to put things into orbit. They're the only ones with demonstrable capability to send things beyond Earth orbit and do it economically. And I think that they're the only ones who are in a position to acquire their competition. The amount of money that they're putting into AI, though, is kind of weird. Because Starlink and Starship and Falcon, those are profitable programs. They make money when they do that. Putting all this money into building data centers and to upgrade Grok and to put data centers in space is a little wild. If SpaceX goes below $70 a share, maybe even below $80 a share, I'll take a look at it. Thoughts on DRAM? Yeah, how is DRAM doing? Oh man. Yeah, it's been an ugly month for DRAM. Not surprising. Not a bad valuation though. Memory's getting beat up pretty badly, and I think that's probably because we're seeing reducing marginal. We're seeing the reduction of, or diminishing marginal revenue for memory. That's a problem, and we also got bad guidance from SanDisk and Western Digital about Q1 27. Kind of a concern. Aurora Technologies, I need a ticker. Give me a ticker for them. I bought Lay's at 2.5 a share, and I'm cooked. Yeah, so that's what happens when you get into micro caps that have. Let's actually look again. Yeah, I'm not sure why you decided to do that. So there's hardly any volume on this, except with this defense contract that was announced back in June, I suppose. And then it just kind of teetered off from there. Yeah, this is why I avoid super small micro caps like this. I'm just not like, it's basically a penny stock at this point. Not a fan of it. Which stocks look good for a long term, around 6 months to a year? 6 months to a year from now, I'd say Take Two Interactive is a good play. I'd say Reddit's a good play as well. What's going on with my camera? There we go. Apple, yeah, another Apple and Reddit. I'm also big fans of. I'm probably never going to sell my shares in Apple. So that's another good long term play. Aurora Innovation. Okay. Having a good day today. What exactly? What's their line of business? Auto parts. Okay. Engages in self-driving technology business. Aurora Driver, a platform that brings a suite of self-driving hardware, software, and data services together to adapt to and interoperate various vehicle systems. Okay. So do they sell to like automotive companies? There's quite a bit of short interest and they're losing money. Year over year things haven't looked good, and oh wow. They're not making anything at all. 2 million in revenue? Seriously? Yeah, and they just had to dilute the crap out of their shareholders. They raised what, 200 million in an equity raise? Ugh. Okay, so they have new partnership, second generation driverless truck launch, Q2 net loss of $270 million on $2 million in revenue. No, I mean, 200 driverless trucks by year end. This is very early. I don't know if I need to know what their burn rate is for these guys. I don't know if they're going to be able to raise the cash or the debt to continue. Too speculative? Yeah, no, I'm going to pass. They're number one in self-driving trucks. Yeah, and they're losing money. You're throwing money into a black hole with this. This I like 2 million in revenue in the second quarter is kind of pathetic. I'm sorry. Like that's on a $270 million loss. I think that this company probably raised. When did they start? Yeah, so they went public in 2021. Makes sense. And like all IPOs, it didn't go well. They probably raised money pre-revenue. And they did, and it makes sense that they did that in 2021 because capital markets were going nuts back then. So they probably could have gotten the money pretty cheap. This is so we need to know how much cash they have left and how long they'll last for. I'm gonna pass. Too speculative. Yeah, I'd buy Magna over Aurora. Are they in self-driving technology though? That's the thing. SoFi, Nate. SoFi, I'm not a huge fan of, to be honest. It's been a rough year for SoFi. It was overvalued. Um, as far as seeing SoFi break out above $20 a share, I don't see that happening in the immediate future. I'd love to for someone to explain to me where they could see that happening with SoFi though. But the thing is that I'm not a huge fan of SoFi, if I'm being honest. Can we touch on Uber? Yeah, I know Uber's having a good day. I did look at Uber earlier. Um, I know that they beat in their earnings. I know that there's a lot of attention focused on them because of essentially Nancy Pelosi getting a position and loading up on more Uber shares. What interests me about Uber is what's going on with Grab or the rumors around there. So if they decide to acquire Grab or if there's a potential buyer or if they merge with Grab, that would be interesting. I'm not spending the time to try and find out what the chances of that being true are. That's yeah. Great business. Um it's at an interesting valuation, but I'm not like and they've had good results. Like it's not like Uber's here to stay. This is a good company. They've got the like this is these are good results year over year, quarter over quarter, not bad. Balance sheet looks okay. And Q4 25 and Q1 26, it looks like they're free cash flow positive. Um and the margin improved quite a bit in the second quarter results. That's solid. That's good. But do I see Uber suddenly jumping to $200 a share because of all that? No. What I do think would be interesting is that if Uber announced that they're going to acquire Grab in cash and stock, then that would be cool. It's very hard to find out how true that would be, though. And yeah, could Grab be a good buy? Grab would be interesting if what would make Grab interesting is if Uber decided to acquire them. So that's what I would like about Grab. I'd probably buy shares in Grab because I could see Grab going up more than Uber would. But yeah, we selling Palantir here? I don't know, KD. Do you like? I mean, when did you get in at Palantir at? SpaceX up 10%. Yeah, JT. I think that's those are index funds acquiring shares in SpaceX just because of the release in locked up shares that happened earlier this week. $150. Well, I mean, you can get out now and make a nice chunk of change. This is a tough read because we're not at 1 year all-time highs. We're approaching a high for 2026 though. I think Palantir is expensive in my opinion. The business, fundamentally speaking, has had really strong growth. There's no denying that. It's had fantastic results. What concerns me about Palantir, though, is how well those growth assumptions will hold up. I don't know. Palantir looks great on the monthly IMO. Yeah, it's had a fantastic month. But the thing is that going to continue? Because the last time Palantir had a really strong month, it did not the next. It's pretty volatile. It's a volatile stock. If you're a savvy investor and you trade on technicals and you're paying very close attention to Palantir, this might be a good time to exit, maybe enter a short position, but not for a fundamental purpose, for a fundamental reason, for a technical one. I don't know. I want to love Palantir. I don't love it at this price though. If we see Palantir come down around $100 a share, I don't think that's going to happen within the next week or month. That could be interesting. Super long term though, it feels overvalued. The growth assumptions that analysts are baking into their models for Palantir are very optimistic. And I don't like the CEO. Yeah, that's also true. I think Alex Karp's weird. He's just a weird guy who says some like off the wall crap, and getting a coherent, calm thought out of him is like pulling teeth. I mean, you can check the RSI, go look at Bollinger Bands and where moving averages are sitting at with Palantir. You'd probably see some oversold momentum, or it's probably looking, and it's entering oversold or overbought territory right now. Excuse me. So, hard to say. Would I get out of Nebius taking a loss? What did you get into Nebius at though? That's the thing. Getting, in my view, like I don't want to be that guy, but getting into Nebius in the first place was a mistake. Big growth in Reddit, still worth it? Yeah, I'm still a fan of Reddit. Absolutely a fan of Reddit. Oracle's an interesting one. I think Oracle's the worst hyperscaler out of the big five. Good growth prospects, really big credit risk. Their dependence on OpenAI is a little scary because OpenAI has circular financial relationships with its own customers and investors. It's kind of a problem. And suppliers too. Nebius dropped down? Yes, it did. It had a bad day yesterday. It's not having a good day today as well. Will says CoreWeave. Will, CoreWeave is my highest conviction play at the moment. I'm short CoreWeave. Big time short on CoreWeave. CoreWeave is not this is not a good company. Is Microsoft touching all-time highs this year? It could. It very well could. What do I think of Datadog? Do we have a ticker for them? And Micron? Yeah, Kayri, we'll get to Micron in a sec. Out of all the hyperscalers, I'm the most impressed with Microsoft. The Azure growth was incredible, and hitting 30 million paid subscribers on Copilot is very impressive. As far as all-time highs, yeah, I think we may with Microsoft for sure. There's a lot to like about Microsoft. Explain your thesis on CoreWeave. So while we look up Datadog here, and then let me go to Micron first, and then we'll go to Datadog. I think so. Overall, I think Micron's a hold right here at this price. It's been a rough, it's been a roller coaster with Micron over the last month. Obviously, semis and what happened back in June. It was kind of crazy. A correction was coming due in memory as well. I think Micron's at an interesting price though. The good news for Micron is the fundamentals are completely there. Micron has the fundamentals are there. That's what I like about Micron. That's why I would seriously consider investing in them. The reason why I'm sitting on the sideline right now is for technical reason. I want to see improving technicals for Micron. We'll probably see I called the supports for Micron wrong. I was wrong about the supports for Micron. That's why I want to see improving technicals before I get in. The fundamentals are extremely strong with Micron though. A lot to like about them. And then Datadog, and then I'll explain my CoreWeave short to Will, or my thesis on my CoreWeave short. So Datadog, I've heard of these guys like once. I believe, yeah. So are they cloud or analytics? Observability and security platform for cloud applications. Okay. It looks like their 10Q came out on Wednesday. Worth checking out. Let's actually look at their financials really quick. Pretty thin margin. That was for last year though, so we need to see what Q1 26 says. How's the balance sheet look? It's a lot of liquidity. Why do they need so much cash? And like money sitting in treasuries or money market funds. 6.6 billion in assets, and they need 4.5 billion in cash. Why? I mean, I'll go check that out. It could be an interesting play. But here's the thing, though. Your Datadog's at a PE of 475. Are you kidding me? No, I mean, I'm not going to pay that much for a company. It's had a great year. There's no denying that. But why do they need so much cash? That's what I want to know. Weird. Okay. Anyway, Will, I know you had asked, explain my thesis on CoreWeave. So I have a whole deep dive video on CoreWeave on my YouTube channel, but here's the basics of it. CoreWeave is in a massive amount of debt. They're financing their data. They have 43 data centers, which is, that's impressive and cool. But they're financing most of it with debt. Half of their 25 billion in debt is floating rate debt. So it's tied to some sort of macro figure that they have no control over, whether that's 10-year treasuries or SOFR or something like this. Earnings growth has been good for CoreWeave. Their losses are expanding faster than their earnings. So essentially, marginal cost is growing faster than marginal revenue. That's a big problem. The other thing, too, is that they're competing with their own customers. CoreWeave's quality of revenue sucks. It's not good. They're competing. Basically, Meta and Microsoft are essentially using them as a bridge solution for GPUs. Once Hyperion's finished for Meta and once Microsoft is finished with all of its data center CapEx, that's big problems for CoreWeave. The unit economics of renting out GPUs, whether that's like NVIDIA RTX chips or something like this, isn't great either. So, as far as CoreWeave is concerned, and as far as what I think CoreWeave is worth, I think CoreWeave is worth close to what net asset value is. Call it about $30 a share. This is not a good company. They've been massively irresponsible with debt, and at a certain point, either the unit economics of GPUs will improve or it won't. And if it doesn't improve, if it does improve, that still doesn't solve the problem of them competing with their own clients. It's a bad business model fueled by a massive amount of debt. Not a fan. Is Google the best opportunity right now to the Mag 7 still feel like spot? Google's a very good opportunity, that's for sure. I put Microsoft and Google very close to each other. Big fans of them. So are you bearish on all neoclouds because they all have or will have to take on big debt other than Meta? I'm not bullish on neoclouds in general. There will be winners and there will be losers. As far as neocloud winners, I'm not going to call any winners right now. I know that CoreWeave will probably be a loser, though. Nebius might be another loser. But no, this is not a good company. When do I think the big boom is coming for Take-Two Interactive? Probably the end of this year. I'd say early next year, though. I mean, we're at $1.4 billion in pre-orders for GTA 6 already. And it's still, what, 4 months until we actually see the release of it? I mean, their own management was like, we haven't even seen numbers like this before. Like, yeah, we're up 4.5% today. Honestly, it deserves much better treatment than this. Their Q1 27 results were strong for Take-Two Interactive as well. I was very pleased with what I saw. I'm still very bullish on these guys. Thoughts on Meta get a buying opportunity? I don't know, D. If I have Meta, I'm hanging on to it, but I'm not loading up on more. I got into Take-Two at 190. Damn, Nate, I wish I did. I got into Take-Two Interactive at about $210 a share, and then again at about 233. Still like Take-Two Interactive. Very bullish on them. Is MySpace or AOL coming back? Nope. UCTT. Who are these guys? Ultra Clean Holdings. Ultra Clean Holdings, Inc. Semiconductor Equipment and Material. What a strange name. Outsource solutions for development, design, component sourcing, cleaning, prototyping, engineering, manufacturing, testing of advanced systems. Gas delivery, such as precision thermal. Huh. Okay. Wafers, chemical clean rooms. It serves customers in the semiconductor capital equipment, semiconductor integrated device manufacturing industries. Okay. It's such a funny name to me. I don't know why I find that so funny. Ultra Clean Holdings. Would you consider yourself a value or growth investor? I'm somewhere in between, Will. That's a good question. At heart, I would say value because I think at the end of the day, that's that I think the work of doing fundamental analysis I think is more valuable than looking at technicals. I do understand why looking at technicals is important though, and I do understand why I do understand the benefits of being a growth investor. There's reasons to like both. I'm a hybrid, I would say. Definitely not a day trader or swing trader or anything like that. I occasionally dabble in options as well. Okay, UCTT. Here's what they've looked like annually. Here's what they've looked like quarterly. If you're doing $645 million in revenue on a 1.3% margin, there's something wrong with your cost structure. This is a $3.7 billion market cap. I'll pass. Yeah, I'm going to pass on these guys. Are you buying anything right now? I think the market will dip soon with rate hikes. Ben, the thing is, though, here's the okay, so I don't know, though, about a rate hike because I mean, we heard it from Warsh himself. He said the market's doing the Fed's work for us. We're seeing interest rates go up. And I think that that's fine. But he's not, and you know, there was dissent in the last Fed meeting. It was 9-3 on on what interest rates are doing. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think we're going to see a rate hike. And the other problem too is that Warsh is super tight-lipped. He's basically taking the position the Fed is going to say a lot less than it has before. I think that's a bad thing, but yeah. Brigu says SpaceX announced they're getting into cell phone service. It's a $600 billion market according to them. Well, it also according to SpaceX, the TAM of AI is $28.5 trillion. So, take what they say with respect to TAM in any sort of given industry with a grain of salt. And if that's true, if they're really going to do that, that's bad news for ASTS. Really bad news for ATS Space Mobile. History tells us not to bet against Elon Musk, but I think that SpaceX is still overvalued. It's still too expensive. So, yeah. What about DJT? Oh, God. Trump media. Yeah. No. The whole thing with the Truth API and hedge funds paying for that, like, nah. And besides, it's still losing money. Do I feel like there's a Palantir bubble going on right now? I haven't looked at the technicals. My gut tells me yeah. So I think Palantir's at an interesting price. I think that if you got into Palantir at less than 130 a share, this might be a good time to take profits and then keep watching what it does. Because I'd admit we're probably going to see a correction with Palantir in my view. I love what Palantir does, or not what they do, but I love the results of the business. Fundamentally speaking, things look strong. There's very rosy growth assumptions though with Palantir. So I'm not. And here's what they've done year to date. And if we look at local highs, whether they're quarterly highs or weekly highs or something like this, the stock tends to correct. And it tends to correct relatively quickly. So I'm going to say I would take a short position in Palantir, but not because I think fundamentally it's a bad business. It would be for a technical reason. I'd imagine we're seeing a lot of way overbought momentum right now with Palantir. So, and in fact, let's go I'm going to go look at TradingView. Just kind of see where things look with Palantir. Yeah, so here's here's Palantir and TradingView right now. And here's the RSI right now. So I'm going to move this over even more. So that should tell you what you need to know. Or no, this is the MACD. My bad. Sorry. Hang on. Let's go look at the RSI for Palantir. Did I add that? Yeah, here's the RSI for Palantir right now. Yeah, it appears to be overbought. And those Bollinger Bands are growing quite a bit. Things are quite volatile for Palantir, so I think you need to look at what the volume's doing. To be honest, I'd purely from a technical perspective, I'd probably short Palantir. But you know, it remains to be seen what the market's going to do. It's a tough one for me. I wrestle with the Palantir about what the right move is. I'm waiting for Anduril to IPO, then I'm putting down 10,000 along. Lucas, you might be waiting a long time for an Anduril IPO because Lucky Palmer has said, he's like, why would I go public? He's literally said that before in interviews. So I'm, you know, it may be a couple years before you see that. Think SpaceX is a good investment under 90 a share, and do you think it will hit 90? It could, Ben. I think that SpaceX is yeah, it definitely could hit 90. Do I think it will hit 90? In the future? Yeah, actually I think it will. Will I get into SpaceX and under 90? I might. I'd be more interested if SpaceX goes below 70 though. So that's kind of where I sit with everything at the moment. Anyway, guys, I got to call it a stream here. I really appreciate everyone tuning in today. It was an early stream today. I wanted to get one in before I have to leave town for the weekend. So thank you all, everyone, so much for joining. I had a ton of fun talking with you guys, like always. Love sharing investing ideas with everybody. And I really appreciate everyone's participation today. As far as how next week is concerned, we will see a new deep dive next week for a YouTube video. So we'll get into that. And if you guys want, like, I haven't decided what I'm going to do my next deep dive on. So DM me a suggestion. If you want like a long form piece of content where I really dig into the weeds on a company and decide if it's worth buying, selling, or holding, shoot me a DM here on TikTok. And let me know. Let me know what company you want me to check out. And for those of you who are new, I really appreciate you hanging out. And if you are a repeat viewer or new, make sure you hit the follow button because I do go live every day during the week. I will be live Monday through Friday next week, that's for sure. And if you want to learn more, just go check out my YouTube channel. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for joining. Y'all have a great weekend, and we will see y'all on Monday. Everyone take care.